I think as humans, especially in today's world, it's easy to distract your demons. Like, if an inner demon comes up, it's easy to just go on your phone and start scrolling. Or it's easy to fucking jerk off, or it's easy to watch Netflix, or it's easy to... You have a way of hiding those things. And when you don't have a way to hide those things, they all fucking come up.
You are now tuning in to the Evolution Daily Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Evolution Daily Podcast. This is episode 129 featuring Moe Abbassi. Now, Moe is a guy who I've talked to. We kind of bring it up here in the episode, but I've talked to Moe for like a cumulative of maybe 30 minutes over the years, 20 minutes or so. He was exclusively a pickup and dating coach. I think he kind of branched more into lifestyle stuff, sort of kind of overall being a high value man. And then now he has reached this place in his life and in his business where what he's really passionate about is helping guys to grow their income, helping entrepreneurs and business owners. And a lot of the way that he's really doing that with guys is through, I guess in the way that I would describe it, is through really eradicating a lot of negative self-beliefs, kind of getting understanding about why you ever developed those self-beliefs, and then replacing them with not only more positive beliefs, but also with truth, which then sort of frees you in order to be more of who you need to be in order to raise your income, make more sales, really accomplish your goals more. So we had a very, very interesting conversation. I mean, it's very powerful. We talk a lot about red pill content and how poisonous it can be. We talk a lot about alpha versus beta, and we kind of have like a bit of a disagreement about whether those are negative or positive connotations in the grand scheme of men learning how to be men. Really solid episode. You guys are going to absolutely love this one. Comment down below on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, then I want you to comment down below. And if you're listening over on Spotify or the podcast app or whatever, then pop over to YouTube and join the conversation. You know, we get good conversations going on in the comment section down below. So comment and let me know what you think about the episode. If you disagree with me, if you disagree with Moe, if you agree with either of us on anything, just join the conversation. Let's get the conversation going down below in the comment section. Now, listen to me before we jump into this episode. I have a boot camp coming up March 11th through the 13th in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the Spring Break Spectacle. If you're a man who is looking for that breakout moment where you go from being insecure, having anxiety, not dating the women that you want, not feeling social, not feeling confident, not hooking up with the women that you want, really having no results whatsoever in your dating life, and you're fucking fed up with that, and you're ready to take your dating life higher. You're ready to go from 0 to 1, from 1 to 5, from 5 to fucking 20, hooking up with girls regularly. So much of life, so much of the happiness that you're going to experience in this world is going to be dependent not only upon having lots of different hookups. You should have that phase in life, but I'm such a firm believer that so many of us are going to end up in these long-term relationships with women, and the long-term relationship that you end up with, in with a woman, is the health, the success, and the happiness of that relationship is going to be extremely predicated upon levels of abundance or levels of scarcity that you've experienced before that relationship. You all know couples. Maybe unfortunately you've been in a relationship before where you were in it because you weren't even that into the girl, but you just kind of felt like this was all you could get. And so, one, the phase of your life in which you're gaming, you're hooking up with chicks, you're dating multiple girls, you're playing the field, you're being a fucking pimp, not only is that going to be probably some of the most extraordinary events, extraordinary time periods of your entire fucking life. But on top of that, all of those lessons, that deep core confidence that you will develop by working with me, by coming on this boot camp, Las Vegas, Nevada, March 11th through the 13th, the confidence you're going to develop knowing, hey, no matter what happens, no matter what city I'm in, no matter what my fucking situations are, I can go out and I can meet beautiful women. I can talk to them. I can get them on dates. I can sleep with them. I can date them. I do not need to put up with a woman that doesn't do what I want her to do, that doesn't treat me, that isn't fully in her feminine, treating me well, being my fucking queen to the king lifestyle that I'm creating for myself. So head over to evolutiondaily.com/coaching. You can head over to evolutiondaily.com. You'll see the coaching tab there. And I want you to apply for this boot camp. We don't work with anybody. You've got to, you basically have to commit to taking this boot camp and then afterwards taking massive action on what you're learning in the boot camp. We do a follow-up debrief with everybody 2 weeks later to really track progress and make sure that you are taking that action. And then also to answer even more questions that you have now that you are taking action from the boot camp. So there's so much included in this program. This is going to be one of the most insane, life-changing weekends of your entire fucking life. We go Friday through Sunday in Las Vegas, Nevada, the one city in the world with a slogan that basically tells girls it's okay to hook up with whoever you want. I mean, polling in Vegas is incredibly easy. I've never gone to Vegas and not polled. I mean, it's incredibly easy. I know guys that they're not even in the game and they suck with girls in their normal life and they end up polling. I mean, you are incredibly likely to actually hook up with a hot chick. Not only that, but also the community that you get from these boot camps. I mean, we have guys where I find out like a year later that because they met on the boot camp, they're now like best friends. They're winging together all the time. One guy's like flying out to this other dude's city so they can go out for like a 5-day immersion, just pulling chicks together, partying down. I mean, the community that you get when you actually enter this world and meet other high-value motherfuckers, ambitious, driven people. Think about in your day-to-day life. How often are you surrounded by ambitious, driven people? We get people that come on these boot camps that literally just tell me straight up they wanted to hang out with me for the weekend. That's how you can do it. Because honestly, I mean, not to fucking toot my own horn here or whatever, but it's rare to really be around somebody like me who fucking sees the gold that's within you, who sees the ambition that's within you, and who's able to fucking unlock it. Most people you're around, the people at work, your fucking family, your shithead friends that you grew up with, these people are boring. These people are stuck, they're trapped, and if you hang out with trapped people, you're going to stay trapped. If you hang out with people that are ascending, you're going to ascend. It's as simple as that. So join this boot camp, March 11th through the 13th, the spring break spectacle, the spring break spectacular in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 11th through the 13th. I will see you in Las Vegas. Enjoy this episode of the Evolution Daily Podcast, episode 129 with Moe Abbassi. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Evolution Daily Podcast. We are here today. We got a new guest here. This guy needs no introduction. I do feel as though you are going to get an introduction, but I feel there's classes, right? People talk about classes of comedy where, you had the Bill Hicks and the Kinnisons, like that class, and you had the Rogans and the Diaz's, and now you kind of got a new class. Mo, you were really around when I started. You were a newer guy. You were really popping off at that time. I feel like Bradicus was as well, Justin as well. I feel like we're kind of a part of the same class when it comes to getting into this, pickup, self-development, dating, all of this kind of stuff. So you and I we've talked a little bit over the years. We met for like 2 seconds one time, but we really don't know each other.
In New York.
Yeah, Washington Square Park. Man, I'm trying to think, I don't even know was I even doing a boot camp or was I just filming?
Yeah, you were running a boot camp, I remember.
Okay. Man, I love New York, dude. I hear it's not as bad as they say it is in the news. I wanna make my way back out there. But guys, listen, this is Moe Abbassi. Mo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Excited to be here.
Yes, and you guys can follow Mo on Instagram over at Moe Abbassi. It's MoeAbbassi. Is it just your full name? Is that the handle?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just my full name.
Okay, sick. So one of the things that I talked to Mo about before we hopped on here was that through Messenger yesterday, is I said this will be kind of a cool podcast because we don't know each other at all. I mean, we really don't. We've spoken a total of maybe 20 minutes ever over the years, and so I don't even really know much about your beginnings. I don't know how you've now transitioned from dating and pickup, which you were very much that was your focus, into now doing almost solely, business, performance, helping dudes just fucking level up in that area. So bro, why don't you start out, I would say, by maybe just telling my audience what you do now, and then also kind of where you started in this industry, in this world.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, right now I'm just helping like business owners really level up and beat their record months. So if someone's making 10K, I help them make 15, 20K consistently. And I only get paid when they basically level up. So it's very performance based. Was in the dating world for, gosh, 7, 8 years, just like teaching it. So that was kind of my profession beforehand. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. I got started in that first, built that business to over $250,000 a year, and then noticed that a lot of the people I was working with were also dating coaches, and they wanted help with their businesses. So I basically helped them, level up. And I was like, oh, I really like doing this. So kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, awesome, man. And so overall, I mean, your time in pickup and dating and all of that, it sounds almost, when you mention it, it almost just sounds like it's an old life for you. It's almost like, this long ago past that I had. So talk about, I would say what would be cool for me to hear about as well is like, when and how intense, like what was the most intense you were ever into it? Was it always like, yeah, really, into it, whatever? Or was there like, I'm eat, breathe, sleeping this, like I fucking, 100 night challenge, crazy shit? How deep did you ever really go into pickup?
Yeah, I mean, I to give you context, I started off, like let's say, dude, I was like 16 when I started to learn about dating and pickup and all this stuff. And initially, I started to learn about mystery method and the game. Like that's where a lot of people start. And I tried it for 2 years, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like I'm not getting any results. But I felt good because for the first time, I felt like I had control over my life. I was like, wow, I can go out and I can do these things that are scary to me. And I didn't think I could do that. That wasn't a part of my identity. And so I was seeing my identity change. And then, I started to learn about the RSD guys and started to learn the more natural approach of doing things, and did that for a while and got some decent results. And I was going hard, man. I was going out 6, 7 nights a week. Like, really, you got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday nights, 5 days of the week where you might have an event. And I was in Toronto where you could go to like a club or a bar. But I was going out like 7 nights a week, even when clubs and bars weren't open. So there was a time in my life where I really dedicated myself to understanding dating, understanding women, understanding relationships, understanding social intelligence, understanding how to talk to people in general. Because when I first started, I remember the turning point for me was in high school. I was talking to one of my crushes, and she like opened up the door for me, and I got so shocked that she was being nice to me that I froze. And she looked at me like I was the weirdest fucking dude on the planet. And I was like, man, I got a problem with this. Like, I don't know how to socialize with people. I'm like this traumatized, hurt little boy, and I don't know how to talk to people. I'm afraid of it. So I really dedicated a huge portion of my life to it, really mastered it, got to a point where I was dating multiple women at a time. I dated real models, not just like Instagram, models. I dated actual models who were in Vogue magazine, and Instagram models as well. And really just was able to experience that part of my life. And at some point I was like, all right, this is getting boring now. Like, I'm just kind of bored. And I wanted something deeper. So in the last, 4 years, I've been in a relationship, living in Newmarket, which is like, if you could see right now outside my window, it's like the middle of fucking nowhere. It's like complete opposite life of what I had when I lived like downtown. So yeah, it is kind of behind me, but at the same time, I think I learned a lot of skills that were transferable from that to just business in general. Skills that changed me as a person, changed me as a man, that I am a different person because of it today. And, at some point I evolved from what I would say pick up from the general dating advice to becoming just generally attractive. Now if today my girlfriend decides to break up with me and she's like, I'm out, I can go out and meet a new woman without having to necessarily do any tactics or tricks. I might be rusty in the beginning, but that self-belief is there that I don't have to try as hard. And so, yeah, it was a huge portion of my life. I really dug deep into it, mastered it, taught a lot of people how to master it. And this is like the next layer of the onion for me to be in this portion of my life.
That's dope, man. That's amazing. Did you have a hard time, would you say, going from being with, maybe a few new girls a week, seeing this girl, seeing that girl, rotation, all that kind of stuff, new pole? Did you have a hard time transitioning from that into this relationship?
100%, yeah. I think I made a video on this on YouTube where I talked about like identity change, like changing your identity really fucking quickly. And I remember when I got into my relationship, like the first year and a half was really rough for me because after I didn't know that in a relationship there's something called a honeymoon phase. And then after the honeymoon phase, you kind of get into the normalcy of the relationship. And so I realized that whenever I would have a problem in my relationship, my immediate thought pattern was, I'm just going to go get a new girl. And like, I didn't want to work on myself and I didn't want to work on the relationship or have to come to terms with like, okay, there's another human being now that I live with that I have to, understand them better. They have to understand me better so that we can live together better and improve each other. And the first immediate thought that I used to always have is like, oh, she doesn't understand me. I'm just going to go get a new girl. And so when I really dug deep into myself, I realized there was a lot of stuff also from pickup that I picked up that was toxic and that was actually very disempowering to me. Because, I mean, you see it also in Red Pill. It's like, if the girl does this, just drop her. And it's like, that's not how relationships work. Like, you can't just drop someone because they told you, hey, I'm going out with my friends. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The Red Pill, like, stuff is, I think, in my opinion, coming from a very hurt place where guys are just, like, basically hurt little boys who they're looking for an opportunity to just drop a girl. And you'll see all this content out there that people put where it's like, we told this bitch to get the hell out of our room. And it's like everyone's loving it in the comments. And I realized that I picked up a lot of that stuff from the Red Pill pickup phase. And I was also trying to apply it to my relationship, which wasn't working. And so, yeah, I did have a very hard time transitioning. And I had like a lot of identity issues where I was like, well, if I'm not sleeping with like 4 women a week, who am I anymore? Like, what am I all about? And yeah, man, I went through a phase where I was having like an existential crisis where I didn't know who the fuck I was anymore. And so it gave me an opportunity to really dig deeper into myself, dig deeper into a lot of childhood hurt that I had, a lot of traumas that were not dealt with that were showing up like very regularly, and it was getting triggered super easy. Like my girlfriend could say something and she didn't even mean it in the wrong way. She would be maybe like joking, and it would just trigger me, and like a hurt would trigger. And my immediate reaction was to push her away. Like, I'm feeling a sense of rejection or abandonment, I'm going to push you away. And so I think I did have a really hard time, but I'm very glad that we got through it. And I'm very glad that I was open to getting therapy at the time. I got, cognitive behavioral therapy for a while to really understand myself and my childhood hurt. And that was a really transitioning moment in my life, because I realized that this is something deeper than just like relationship issues. This is something deeper than, an identity problem. It's like I have a lot of hurt inside of me. So I think it was hard, but at the same time, very necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're spot on about so much of the the toxicity that you can get from Red Pill and even from some pickup coaches with all of that, because I've seen these videos that you're talking about where it'll be some video of 500,000 views, 600,000 views, everyone loving it, and it's called like her boyfriend broke up with her through a TikTok or some shit, and it's like this really nice looking girl crying, and like her boyfriend like kind of just devastated her publicly, and everyone's like, dumb bitch, that's what she deserves. Like, it's crazy. And so much of these teachings, I 100% agree that a lot of it does come from pain within men. And that's why I've actually, I've really had to go up against people that even love my stuff. I've had people in my paid groups or my paid programs where they are sharing content like that, and I've had to message them or talk to them and be like, I'm genuinely curious right now why you enjoy this. Like, let's talk about this. Why do you enjoy this? What part of you thought that, oh, I should share this with the group, with other people? And, well, it's funny because da-da-da-da. And I go, no. Here's the fucking problem. Here's the problem with all this shit. The guys that, bar none, absolutely, the guys that get really, really good results with women, they love women. They actually love women. Now, okay, look, maybe there's a rare exception of some crazy fucking sociopath, narcissist, psychopath out there that can hate women and fuck a lot of them and whatever. But for the grand majority, actually loving women, wanting what's best for them, wanting to provide to them, having not just having every girl be coming over to fuck at midnight, but rather like doing some nice little shit, going on ice cream dates, whatever. All that kind of stuff will take you much, much further. And not only that, you shouldn't even view it as, oh, I'm going to love women so I can get more results. It's just, this is another human being, man. This is another goddamn human being having a human experience. And I think what happens is that so much red pill content and so much, so many teachings, they're sort of almost foundationally based in the idea that every girl is a cheating OnlyFans kind of sugar baby girl. That's kind of the idea. It's like, trust me, they're fucking the next alpha that comes along. Trust me, they're out here getting their OnlyFans, all this stuff. And it's just not the case, man. In the same way that you're going to meet shithead dudes that you hate and then you're going to have some bros, it's the same way. There's girls out there that, yeah, they're just as manipulative and maybe dark as men, but you're going to have there's amazing women out there. And I want more guys to be able to see that. Now, I want to ask, you mentioned something, and I'm very curious about this because I think I even have a book on it that I've never read. When you buy a book because you're motivated in that moment, it just sits on the shelf. Right. What is exactly cognitive behavioral therapy? What is it? And if you could maybe just kind of give a couple of examples of maybe like who it would help and how.
Yeah. Well, cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of like talk therapy, which is like the way I did it. I would hop on this was during COVID times, of course. But man, I would hop on a call with like the therapist, And basically, she just starts with like, what's going on with your week? And usually I'd be very hesitant to share. I'd be like, oh, I'm feeling fine. Like, there's nothing wrong. And she would be like, well, our work is done here then. And then that would usually get me to open up. And as you're opening up, she's kind of getting you to, at least with my therapist, they ask you questions that you wouldn't generally ask yourself that makes you go, oh, fuck, I don't know the answer to that. And so a good therapist or a cognitive behavioral therapist should be very able to question you and be there to listen to you openly and not judge you as you share your emotions, but also challenge you to see where those emotions are coming from, like where it's actually truly stemming from, what experiences led to that. And she used to always make me very aware of my body signals. Like I'd be sharing something that bothered me, and then she would go, where do you think this comes from? And I would share a childhood experience that I thought that's what triggered me. And I wouldn't notice myself tensing up like in front of her. And she'd be like, how does your body feel right now? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why am I so tense? Like, I wasn't aware of that. So really, it's like talk therapy that gets you to become more conscious of your thought patterns, become conscious of your triggers, where it's stemming from. And then so you can create new behavioral patterns because of that awareness. And when you create new behavioral patterns, the neurons that are connected through the synapses, basically you rewire your brain so that the next time you're about to get triggered and do a self-sabotaging pattern, you don't do it anymore. And so that's kind of the whole point of cognitive behavioral therapy. But I've tried cognitive behavioral therapy, mood therapy, separation therapy, hypnotherapy. I've kind of gone through it all in the past 4 years to really uncover the human mind. And this is why I got into like performance coaching, because those things really helped me out. So that's kind of what it is. And to go on your point in terms of the content as well, in terms of the red pill stuff, I mean, a lot of it is also just false as well, right? Like, this doesn't have to do with therapy, but it's just something I thought about while you were speaking. But yeah. I think a lot of it is just based on false beliefs. Like, you have like years and decades of evolutionary psychology research, but these guys are still talking about alpha males and beta males, which is not how, the mating world in humans even works. So, yeah, I think a lot of the content is based off of just like hurt people, and those people would be very, very good to have therapy. Like, I would suggest it to anybody who just feels the need to push any kind of hate. If they're looking for reasons to confirm their biases, confirm their beliefs that other people are out there to try to hurt them. So it's like, oh, women are all on OnlyFans and women are terrible and cheaters and all this stuff. Well, you're looking for reasons to essentially hate on someone. You're looking for reasons to not see the other side of the perspective, right? Your RAS, your reticular activating system, is focused on the bad and the negative about people. If you're that kind of person where you're constantly searching for the negative and why people are trying to hurt you or reject you or abandon you, then cognitive behavioral therapy is probably going to be good for you. And I think generally, like, every man should do therapy. Like, even if you aren't that like hurt person, every man should do therapy. I think a lot of men in general need to open up their emotions. We've been taught as kids, like, be a man, don't cry, men don't cry, boys don't cry, be tough. And with this conditioning, men have a hard time. We are emotional creatures. That's why we've survived for so long. We're very emotionally intuitive, men less than women, but still we are emotional creatures. And emotional intelligence is being able to read your emotions, process your emotions, so that you can get back to that logical, rational place as a man that takes action. And if you're not able to because you're rejecting them and you're going, no, I'm a man, I shouldn't cry. Well, fuck, man, you're holding on to so much resentment and baggage that it's going to be really hard to get anything that you want to do in life done. And so I think every man needs therapy, because if you can talk to someone on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis where you can just get it all out and be able to process that with a professional, it's going to help your life in general.
One of the benefits that I got the most from working with, many people know her from this show. She's been on many times. She calls herself a spiritual counselor. I really view her as a performance coach. That's how I view her. She's very, very spiritual. She calls herself spiritual counselor, basically a therapist. And I think one of the major benefits that I got was, so similar to what you were talking about identifying sort of where triggers come from in our past and things that have happened to us. But where I think I got the most benefit was recognizing that something I'm going through right now, a way that I'm responding to something right now, I responded that way 4 years ago, and 4 years before that, and 5 years before that. And so by having her there to delve into the past where, right now I'm feeling extreme anger, and maybe she's saying, when do you remember in your life experiencing extreme anger for the first time? What about it this time? Whatever. So then what happened is again where I find I think I got some of the most benefit was recognizing these unconscious patterns that I'm following and that are stemming from 7-year-old Aaron feeling left out in second grade. And now I'm responding to this girl who loves me and cares about me in the same way. I'm acting like a 7-year-old at age 30. And so, yes,
Right.
I think that having that third party there to help you have consciousness around these events and these patterns, I think it's incredibly beneficial. Now, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned when we talked about when we're talking about kind of this red pill content and what a lot of men are being taught and programmed, I want to ask you this. Don't you think that largely the teachings of let's have a conversation around this. What do you think in regards to the teachings of be alpha, don't be beta? Don't you think that largely those are positive for men? And if not, or if so, then where are the negatives?
I don't think it's positive. And other than the scientific perspective of it, which is just downright false. Like, in terms of evolutionary psychology, we're not creatures who... Women don't choose their mates based on alpha versus beta perspectives. That's not how things work. They did decades of research on this, and they found out specifically 7 traits that all women look for. They look for them in very specific amounts of each trait. So, like, one of them was kindness, but if you're too kind, then you become creepy. So... each woman looks for those 7 traits in specific amounts based on where she's at in life, her upbringing, and her father figure or figures in her life, what she values based off her previous life or based on her upbringing, or what she values right now, and the socioeconomic culture. So when guys like red pill guys try to bring it down to just, alpha versus beta, it doesn't make sense. They're not giving the full picture, because you could be alpha as hell and she will still not want to choose you because based off of her preferences and previous relationship experiences and upbringing and where she's at in life, maybe she wants a guy who's basically just a pussy. And that's what she finds attractive. So it's like, this whole alpha versus beta thing is just not how humans work in terms of mating and attraction. I would suggest every guy who's looking into red pill to actually look at the science behind it. Like, look into evolutionary psychology. There's guys like Dr. David Buss who've done decades and decades of research across every single culture of what women actually find attractive. That's where you want to look into. Look into the science of things. Don't just look into what will confirm your biases, confirm what you believe or what you want to believe on what works. Because it's very simple to just be like, alpha versus beta. Now, why I also think it's not helpful for a lot of men. Now, I don't think it's not helpful for all of men, but I think it's not helpful for the majority of them, is because the watered down advice will make guys act and fake being quote unquote alpha. You'll see this often where like, I just got to be alpha? Cool. And they'll go into interaction and try to make their voice deeper and try to stand more like this and, the fake it till they make it thing. and it just makes them more inauthentic. It leads to worse results in life, and then it provides even more negative confirmation about who they are. They're like, wow, when I was even alpha, it still didn't work, so I must be a piece of shit. And so in general, I don't think, one, it's just false, but also it's not helpful for majority of men. Some men will take the advice and they'll become action takers and become more high value and improve themselves. Yes, it's helpful for some people, but it depends on where the person is coming from into that advice. And I think the majority of guys who are coming into that advice are coming from a disempowered place, and it's probably not going to help them long term.
Yeah, I think that there's a major difference between the true meaning of being an alpha male versus what a lot of people are trying to do. And very similar to what you said earlier about when women, your girlfriend or maybe a girl you were seeing previously, she doesn't text back in 4 to 5 hours, and so you say, well, fuck her then. I'm just going to go fuck somebody else. All right, fine. You don't want to make plans tonight? Oh, you're going to flake me? Nobody flakes me. I'm the fucking alpha. I'm the goddamn king. That kind of shit is super unhealthy. I disagree with you though. And where I disagree is I think that the idea of being an alpha male, I think that it's mostly positive. And where I think it's mostly positive is I think that maybe even red pill teachers, pickup teachers, maybe it's not that we're all kind of, maybe we're not getting it scientifically correct. But what I think that we're all really doing, because I'm a big proponent of wanting to work your way into being more of an alpha male and stemming away from beta behaviors. And what I think that many of us are doing, and myself included, is I take really positive behaviors and I put them inside of the alpha container. Positive behaviors, positive ways of being. And then I take very negative behaviors and negative ways of being and I put them into the beta container. So I think that if we really are looking at it, if I'm telling somebody that, if I just quickly in conversation say, and dude, like you want to be way more fucking alpha with that chick and you want to, and I kind of brush past it. What it really is inside of that container is, one, when it comes to physical strength, I think that for me, a part of being an alpha male is going to be being physically fit, being strong. And I think that there's no denying that over time, or not over time, I think there's no denying that in an aggregate of 100 women, they're going to be more attracted to the fit, strong man versus the weak, feeble man if everything else is across the board. Not only that, but similar to your situation now, how you're a leader of your own life. You don't go to a job every day where there's a boss telling you what to do and talking shit to you. And Mo, you're probably not a guy that deals with shitty friends that like punk you out, or like you're hanging out with some guy and he's kind of trying to like pick on you or something. Maybe like in the past you would just kind of put up with it and like, ha, ha, ha. But now you'd be like, yo, dude, don't fucking talk to me like that, man. Like, to me, being an alpha male, a big part of it is having these boundaries, these firm boundaries, being a leader, being strong, mentally and physically, not being indecisive in your life, trying to make, quick, well thought out, but quick decisions and forward movement. So I think that largely, most guys are going to really benefit. But then when from being told straight up, like, be more alpha, don't be you want to get really extreme, like, don't be a beta pussy little motherfucker, like, be a real fucking alpha male. I think that that's the advice most people need. However, then maybe at a certain level, you get to a point where then there can be like a way more nuanced discussion, maybe, but largely I think it's great advice to like be more of an alpha male.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's terrible for everyone. And it's good to kind of add an identity, so to speak, to positive traits of a male. I don't know. I guess my brain just works different. Like, I like to know the facts and the truth of everything. Like, for me, what's more important than anything is truth. It's like, I don't care about what my emotions feel. I want to know what is the facts. And so I just don't think like the alpha beta thing is really factual. I get your perspective. I just feel like when you say when people in general say like just be more alpha, there's a lot of misinterpretation that can be behind that. Where like let's say a guy, right? He's a musician, he's more skinny, and he's more of like the artsy type. I think he should just go along with that. Now, if he wants to work out because he doesn't want to be skinny anymore, cool, do it for yourself. But don't force yourself to have to like be out of place in terms of what is authentic to you in this moment in your life. Like, for example, I got back into martial arts about 3 years ago. I pretty much stopped lifting weights. I was just doing martial arts like every day. And at the time, I remember thinking, oh, fuck, I'm losing muscle. And sure, I'm getting faster and more agile, but I need to like be muscular, you know? And it's just not true. Like, I like working out through martial arts. That's where I'm at in this stage of my life. That is what is quote unquote alpha for me, right? And so I think when there is this misinterpretation of what alpha should be, it's like a guy who's lifting weights 4 times a week and has a deep voice and all this stuff. What if in that point in your life you're not there? Like you want to go do MMA, you want to focus more on those things. And I think what truly alpha is like focusing on your goals that are in alignment to what you actually want. And when people burn it down to just alpha and beta, I think there's a lot of misinterpretation because it's not as
simple. It's an oversimplification.
It's not as simple. Yeah. I think like it's good to have that image of like, hey, you should be your best self. That's what to me being like alpha quote unquote is. But I think a lot of guys who come into the alpha versus beta understanding, they think they just have to like be a macho man. And it's like, it's not that simple. Like, I don't think that solves all of your problems. But again, I feel like your brain, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're more like an A-type personality where you're just like, you want to take fucking action. And so for you, like, where you're like, okay, I want to be alpha right now, the guy who takes action, it's easier for your brain to comprehend. For me, I'm very logical. Like, I'm very, like, oriented. I like math. I like numbers and shit. So for me, it's like, well, what's the science behind this? You know, like, I want to know the actual explanation of everything. So I think it also depends on who's viewing the advice. It depends on how their brain works. I just don't think it's that simple. But if it does help someone, then sure, it's like whatever's pragmatic, right?
Yeah, and you have different phases of life where some content's going to be good for you and some content isn't. So I mean, even based on me roasting it this whole time, I would say, let's say you took a guy where he had a high school sweetheart and they go off to college, right? They're staying together forever and it's his second year of college and he's calling her every night, whatever. He finds out, oh, she's been fucking some dude at college. They break up and he just doesn't know. He doesn't have abundance. He doesn't know the dating world. He doesn't, any of that. I don't want that guy to dive too deep down the red pill rabbit hole and become that hurt red pill 40-year-old guy that hates women and now is making videos on it. But I think that some of that content can be beneficial in that place, because one of the things that I love that I've heard from several spiritual teachers and resources is the idea of the vibrational scale. And so at the very bottom of the vibrational scale, you've got apathy, depression, and hopelessness. That's the very, very bottom. And why that's so bad is because not only do you feel terrible, but also all of that is I'm not in control. So then what people will do to move up towards the very top, which is joy, happiness, self-actualization, that sort of thing, is they'll actually move. They have to go through anger next. They have to actually move up into like, they go from sadness, why did Rebecca do this to me? Oh my God. They got to go from that to like, you know what? Fuck her, man. I'm going to go fuck some chicks. I'm going to go fucking, but you got to learn to control it. It's got to be, you've got to really be able to harness that, move out of it and get to a place where eventually one day, hopefully, because I've had this where girls broke my fucking heart so goddamn bad when I was 19, dude. Kelly McCready fucking banging out the dude at the Moon Mart while we were dating, breaks up with me while we're on ecstasy. Terrible, right? And I hated her for a long time. But then you grow up and you realize She was just where she was at, man. She was a 19-year-old girl. I'm 30 now. Look at 19-year-old girls like they're children. She was just a child, just trying to figure it out. So you end up moving out of that and hopefully having some sympathy. But yeah, you're going to be at different places and need different resources. I think it's valuable. So bro, martial arts, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was boxing since I was like 16, and I did that for about 3 years, and then I stopped because I went to university and went on my journey of like traveling and teaching guys like dating advice. And one of the things that I worked on in therapy is like having healthy outlets where you can just like kind of feel good about yourself. And so I got back into boxing 3 years ago. And man, I just realized how much I love it. Now, I also, sometimes do Muay Thai, and I've tried Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a couple times, which is fucking difficult, man. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a whole different game. Not my favorite because I understand that it's super helpful, but dude, I hate having a guy on me who's like sweating buckets and like his balls are in my face. I'm like, Jesus, this is very uncomfortable. But yeah, mostly boxing, sometimes Muay Thai. I'm really fucking good at it, so I'm probably going to compete this year.
Wow. It's amazing, man.
Yeah, so that's my thing. I also, there's something about it, man. I'm like sadomasochistic where I love getting punched in the face, and I love the war aspect of it when I get in like the sparring mode and he's like throwing punches at me and I'm eating them and I'm like, fucking yeah, let's go. Like,
that's
come
alpha.
on.
That's alpha, bro. You're fucking alpha male, dude. You're a closet alpha male, dog. You're like, I want war. I love when I'm fucking eating my opponent's blood. It's like, bro, there you fucking go, man.
No, I think it's a good outlet. It's funny because there's a good book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And I think that every man should be very, very in tune with all the four aspects of himself. Like, I'm very in tune with my magician, which is the logical, rational, overthinking, like, type of mind. Then you have the lover, which is very, like, emotional, like, almost like getting in tune with, like, the artsy, creative, like, very emotional, like, aspect of yourself. And then you have the king, which is, like, the leader, presence, which is, doing things like meditation and stuff, getting very present. But then you also have the warrior, which is like the action. Like I tell guys all the time, even in my program, like go and do martial arts, like get punched in the fucking face a few times and learn how to deal with that emotion of like, holy shit, like that shock. And once you're able to get punched a few times and you can deal with shock, then it's like anything that happens in your life you can deal with. Like now I go in the back in the gym when I'm sparring and like I'm just fucking flying past punches like it's nothing, and I'm not shocked anymore. First few times I got back into sparring and I got punched in the face, I was like, what the fuck, and I froze up. So I think that warrior aspect is very necessary for every man to implement and be able to do something. Now if you don't want to get punched in the face and deal with brain damage, I've had a few concussions and it's not good for your brain, of course, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is another thing that you can do. You're going to have to deal with some form of injury. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, your sockets might pop out or your fingers might. I see them all the time. Like they have their fingers like taped together and shit because it's like all fucked up. There's judo, there's wrestling. So I think every man should choose their form of warrior aspect where they can get into war and get into that place where they're and after you do it, man, you're just like so loose and so relaxed. Like your body's finally tired. This might also be because I have insane testosterone levels, so that's why I also enjoy it. Which I think is
are you natty? You've got natty high test.
Yeah, like
what is it? What
really
is it?
High. So it's funny. I went to go get a test because I thought I had low testosterone. I was like, man, I'm waking up and I'm having like, sometimes I would have anxiety and shit. I'm like, this is weird. Like, I feel like I have low testosterone. So I went and got tested, and my total or free testosterone was in the 1,000 range, and my bioavailable was like 400 something, which is like how much the average person has in their total testosterone.
In their total, right. No, that's a crazy high number. Yeah.
my doctor's like, you probably have anxiety and all this stuff because you have way too high of a testosterone. You just have too much energy, man. You gotta like get it out there. So it's probably why I enjoy it as well, because it's a very like testosterone fueled activity. And I don't know, I have a little bit of psychopathy as well in terms of my psychopathy score. So I probably enjoy punching people in the face and like it's just how I get off. So yeah, that's why I really enjoy boxing and stuff. But yeah.
This is the healthy outlet that you need to be able to punch people in the face. It's
Yeah.
you're like Dexter, right? Like
Yeah,
Dexter's
yeah.
a serial killer. Like he needs to fucking kill people, so he literally becomes a cop so he can kill bad people, so he can have that outlet that's actually benefiting society.
Yeah, I have a low psychopathy score, but it's still there, and which is something I think another thing that all men should know about themselves. But yeah, I think my psychopathy score is like 20%. So it's
What test would you recommend? Like I've never, you know what? If I'm being completely honest, there's always been a part of me that's a little afraid to take some of these different personality tests. There's a part of me that's almost like I think I'm better off not knowing, but that's irrational. What test would you say you'd recommend to me and other people?
Yeah, it's called the dark triad test, dark triad personality test. It tests your score on three things: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. Machiavellianism is basically like doing things even if it's not morally right. If it serves the end, you will do it. So like usually people who have higher Machiavellianism scores are more manipulative or lie more, which is usually a defense mechanism. So like I have a high Machiavellianism score. Like mine was like in the 70th percentile, which is like super high. Which makes sense because one of the things that again I worked on with my therapist is like whenever I felt like I was going to get rejected, abandoned, or hurt, and even if the event didn't mean that I was, right? Like to give you an example, sometimes my girlfriend would be like, you know, she would come home from work and she'd be like, I'm tired, you know, like can you take care of this task? For some reason, that would trigger me and go, oh, fuck, I may do this task wrong and I may get hurt because of it. Because when I grew up, if I did a task wrong, my mom used to like beat me. And so like I've dealt with a lot of emotional, physical abuse. And so I would often either hide, lie, act stupid. And these are forms of manipulation, right? So a lot of times it comes from a defense mechanism. Now, as I worked on myself, my Machiavellianism score has actually gone down, which is amazing to see. But yeah, like my Machiavellianism score was 70%. The next thing it tests you on is narcissism. And narcissism is basically like you're egocentric and focused on yourself, which usually comes from insecurity and also childhood trauma. So my narcissism was also like 30%, which is still a little bit elevated. Like, to give you the average score of someone who's working in Hollywood, right? Like a Hollywood star would be around the 25 percentile, which is pretty high. And then my psychopathy was like around 20%, which isn't terrible. You actually want a little bit of psychopathy because it makes you more likely to take action. Like people who have a little bit of a higher psychopathy level will be better at sales, will be better at communication, will be better at influence. Usually people who have a really low psychopathy score, like in the 0% or 2%, will usually be like the nice guy syndrome. So it's good to know these things because the one thing you can't change is psychopathy, but you can change your narcissism score. You can change your Machiavellianism score. And narcissism is hard to change because if you have a high narcissism score, you're like, well, I'm perfect. Why would I change, right? Which is the bad part of narcissism. But if you're willing to change, then it is possible to change. What's interesting is I've done the test after meditation, like a long meditation session, and the scores all go down after meditation, which is like incredible. But yeah, it's called the dark triad test. Any girl that I date and have dated in the past, I always get them to do it. because there's been girls where I've seen like a little bit of red flags and I'm like, hey, do this personality test. Like, I wonder where you're at with these things. And like their narcissism score was like 70% and their psychopathy was like 80%. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, this is
Yeah.
not someone you want to be with long term. So
She sends you the
it's
she
you.
sends you the results, and then like you don't respond. An hour later, she goes, "Hey, did you get it?" And it goes to green because you've blocked her now.
No, like I've kept girls like that in my life because,
They're
you
probably
know,
they're the most fun. Sometimes like the psychopathic.
they're the
fucking,
most fun. They're the
yeah,
most exciting. They're the most fun. They're the most fun in bed as well.
yeah.
They're usually very, very good in bed, like people who have those high scores. But long term as a partner, you don't want people like that. I do that with my employees as well. People I've tried to hire, and I wish I did that earlier. I had an employee who like stole probably like 20 hours of infield from me
Whoa.
because he went and worked with a competitor and started working for him and deleted all of my infields.
Oh,
And that was like heartbreaking for me because I remember I put so much of my effort into like mentoring him. Like I saw him as like my little brother, and he did that to me as if like it was nothing. And later on, like we ended up getting together and we talked and stuff. And I was like, hey man, you should do this test. I wonder where you're at. And his psychopathy score was like 90 something percent. So I was like, fuck. Had I known that, I wouldn't have worked with them in the beginning, and I wouldn't have trusted them with so much stuff. So, employees, lovers, yourself, really good test to understand, where you're at, where other people are at, what you need to work on.
So essentially, he was able to do that to you and not really feel why it was so painful. Like it didn't even affect him because the score was so high.
Yeah, psychopathy is something that's like genetically hardwired. I think they say that you can't change it, but I think with long enough meditation, people can probably change all of those three scores. Because whenever I've meditated, everything goes down, like including psychopathy.
Man, when you hear about, and myself included, I mean, I had some really profound experiences on mushrooms, especially when I was younger. Even weed, really. I mean, I had some borderline mushroom type experiences from weed. People don't talk about weed enough in the realm of an actual psychedelic, eye-opening, world-changing substance. But I mean, I had some crazy good trips, and if you think about a lot of the revelations that people have when they have deep psychedelic experiences, then I could almost say that really, in a sense, what you're describing to people, these epiphanies you have, are oftentimes almost a lowering of the psychopathy. It's very like, I realized like we truly, the shit that sounds all hippie, whatever, but it's like, I realize we truly are the same and we're experiencing all of this together. And when I hurt you, like I hurt me. And so these things that a lot of people experience, maybe it's almost literally a pill for lowering your psychopathic mind in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of people that have those experiences where they become more loving, more conscious of what others feel, and even if it wears off a little bit over time and you kind of go back to your ways, it's still always there. The knowledge, which I think just the knowledge alone is going to keep you from maybe being as psychopathic as you once were, regardless of where you score.
Yeah, 100%. I think a good I watched a show called You. It's like this guy who like is basically a psychopath, and I thought it was really amazing show because it shows like the mind of a psychopath and how they think. But there was an episode where like he did some like Reiki like healing ceremony, and he started to cry, and like he started to realize like what his actions had been doing to people. Now in the show, of course, they have to make it like still fun. Like he's not going to stop killing people, but I think that a lot of these things like will allow people to, first of all, I mean, meditation has so many scientific benefits, right? There's parts of your brain that actually get activated during meditation that you don't normally get as you're just going through life. Health benefits, all of these things. But I think like with a lot of these things like shrooms, meditation, like deep meditation, all of these like spiritual techniques, it helps you uncover parts of your brain that are probably shut off from either genetics or an emotional experience that you've had in the past. specifically for me, like I did like a 10-day, I did 2 10-day silent meditation retreats where for 10 days you don't have access to anything. You're just meditating 10 hours a day. And those were some of the most revealing experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. Some of the hardest experiences, but stuff that like turned on my brain that I finally figured out like a lot of things about myself. And yeah, I think it'll lower like all of those scores.
The idea of these, what is that word? Vipassana?
Vipassana, yeah.
Vipassana. Dude, the idea of that shit scares me so much, bro. I'm not even gonna lie, dude. Like I love doing some meditations. I love doing like walking, whatever. I just walk with no phone and no music. Like, I like hitting the sauna with no phone, 30-minute, whatever. Dude, when I think of this like 7-day, I've had a couple friends that went and did it, and my one buddy's like, dude, day 2, I was freaking the fuck out. I almost left, but then that was my breakthrough into like, oh, it got so much easier. It actually got easier. And then he's like, I did freak out again, whatever. But bro, I mean, so when you did that, there's not a word, right? Like you're with other people and there's not a word with these other people, nothing.
Not a word. First time I actually failed, I left on the 8th day.
Wow.
And when I left, I was like, oh, fuck, my mind played tricks on me. Like, so you're there, right? And it is hard because they basically take away all your possessions, like wallet, phone, all that stuff, so that you don't have like a part of your identity or something you can distract yourself with. You can't write, you can't read. The only things you're allowed to do is walk and meditate. That's it. You wake up like 4 a.m, sleeping 9 p.m. And of course they have discourses. So like every day you go and you do like 3 group meditation sessions. But yeah, it was really intense because I think as humans, especially in today's world, it's easy to distract your demons. Like if an inner demon comes up, it's easy to just go on your phone and start scrolling. Mm-hmm. Or it's easy to fucking jerk off, or it's easy to watch Netflix, or it's easy to... You have a way of hiding those things. And when you don't have a way to hide those things, they all fucking come up like very intensely. Like I remember the first 3 days was hell, man. Like, dude, I would have dreams, like very vivid dreams of childhood traumas happening again. And those were really intense experiences for me because I was like, holy fuck, there's so much there. By the 8th day, I actually felt really good. I was like, oh, I could do this. And then my brain started to play tricks on me. It's like, well, we got the benefits. Why stay 2 more days? Let's just go back and start working. And then I left, and as I was driving my car out, I was like, oh, fuck, I could have finished it. Like, my brain was just trying to get me out of the uncomfortable experience. Did it a second time, completed the second time, but man, I had some, like, spiritual revelations. The only word I can describe the experiences is truth. Like, that's what it is. And I think that if it scares you, you should do it for that very reason, because it's going to be a very intense experience, and it's probably going to be one of the most like life-changing experiences that you could have, because it scared the fuck out of me. Like I was like, man, this is terrible. But it was one of the defining moments in my life.
It's one of my quotes that I say it all the time. You got to go through hell to get to heaven. It really is. I think as you grow older, you have wisdom and experiences in life. It's you now get a better framing for seeing that the darkest periods of your life, or the hardest things, or that thing that scared you the most, or whatever, like that shit is where you grew the absolute most. And when you're younger, it always feels like hell and like tragedy and this breakup and these things are never going to end and I'm in hell. And then when you get older and experience it again and again and again, it's like now I could go through some awful situation with a girl or whatever, and I'm just so devastated, I'm so upset, and I'm going to be in that frame of mind of like, I know what this is. I know 6 months from now. I know a year from now. I know 2 years from now. I did a mini version of this. So I had realized that I got to a point where I was way too addicted to technology. Just on my phone, nonstop. Every day I'd have a podcast going at any minute, music, just all the time. So I did 2 nights, which ended up equating to close to 72 hours in total, with going to bed the night before and whatever. But I did 2 whole nights in a tiny little cabin in the woods. Took no technology, took no nothing, and no music, no nothing to listen to. And so in total, it ended up being close to 72 hours, about 3 whole days of zero screen, zero technology. I printed up the directions for how to get there. I wrote them down and drove out to this cabin in the woods. And even that much shorter amount of time was profound for me. There were extreme things that had come up, things, recent from the past. It was very emotional, very intense. Day one, thinking, why the fuck am I out here? I should be like doing something to make more money. I should be whatever. I should be doing this. You start trying to convince yourself to leave. And then by the second half of day 2, even then it became bliss. It was like, I was just out there I literally felt high. My only purpose was to keep my fire going because it started to rain. So I'm just standing there shirtless with freezing rain coming down, holding a trash can lid over my fire and just loving it. I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm trying to turn my body, and just over time, it just became so blissful to the point where even on the last day when it was time to leave, actually, I literally almost wanted to, it was like deep off of somebody's property. I almost wanted to walk over to the house. I had no phone and be like, hey, can I stay another night? I'll pay you guys cash to like stay. I almost wanted to stay. But yeah, the commitment to that 7 days, 10 days, I mean, that's wild, man. And I'm glad that it was so beneficial for you. I mean,
Yeah, it was amazing. I would probably, I do something similar every quarter where I take a 48-hour fast from everything. 48 hours fast from orgasm, technology, food, and the only things I do is meditate and journal, and like I feel like that's my competitive advantage in business because it provides so much clarity every quarter that I do it.
Do you have to go?
It's amazing.
Do you have to go somewhere to kind of put yourself in that headspace, or can you just do it in your apartment and just kind of lock everything away?
No, I just do it here. I live, like I said, like it's kind of suburban, but like the place that I live right now, the house that I have, like it's like hills and shit of like greenery. So it's like I'm living in almost the middle of nowhere right now. And yeah, I just set aside all my shit. I don't eat. I don't. Yeah, it's just like 48 hours meditation, journaling. That's it, and drinking water.
Yeah, that's good stuff. We are completely inundated by the technology, the distraction, all of that. I always like to ask people this, man. What's your morning look like? What are you doing in the morning? You talked a lot about that, maybe some of that, a little bit of that anxiety, that cortisol, that kind of is, bubbling up in the morning. What's your morning routine? What's your typical morning looking like?
It depends on what I feel, man. Like I used to have like an elaborate morning routine because I thought that's what successful people do. And then I spent time around successful people and I realized none of them do that shit. Like literally zero of them. I remember I was at a seminar and really good guy that I talked to, this guy named Kevin Hutto, who had a multi-million-dollar social agency. He actually passed away from COVID. But somebody asked him at the seminar, what's your morning routine like? He's like, I don't know. I just get up when I feel like it, drink some coffee, get to work. And like everybody started laughing because they expected him to say some elaborate, like, I get up and I meditate and I work out and I da-da-da-da. And I just feel like life becomes so much simpler when you do what your ancestors did. They woke up. Sometimes they would walk. Sometimes they would work out. Sometimes they would drink. Like, just do what feels right based on what your body and your mind needs. Most of the time I wake up, I'll meditate or do some breath work, and then I'll just get to work. I keep it simple. Like, I like to start the day with a fresh mind. So I like meditation or breath work in the morning. But dude, I've gotten sometimes in the morning and I'll have some coffee and play video games. Like I'll get up, I'm like, oh, I just want to play some video games right now. And then after I do it, I get to work. So it really depends on what my body needs. It really depends on what my mind needs. I'm very intuitive with who I am, what I need moment to moment. I think waking up and being like, oh, I need to do this every day and I need to do these 6 things can sometimes lead to overwhelm and anxiety that is unnecessary. Like, that's not how our ancestors went about their life. I like to look at, like, again, the way that your grandparents woke up. They probably woke up and immediately got to work on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't fucking sit down there and meditate for an hour and then, like, read for fucking 30 minutes and then watch a self-development video. Like, they just got up and they're like, let's go milk some cows. Mm-hmm. And usually if you can stick to the simplest shit, if you can stick to what your body and mind needs, if you can stick to chasing one rabbit instead of trying to catch 20 rabbits, the old quote, the man who chases 2 rabbits catches none, I think it's going to be more beneficial for you. So my one rabbit in the morning is just meditation. That's what makes me feel good. And I just get to work. That's it. Keeping it simple. And then, of course, throughout your day, you have routines. Like, I'll go on walks and I'll work out and I'll do Duolingo and all this stuff. But that's after I've gotten my
what language? What are you learning?
German.
Okay.
Right now I'm learning German.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. So I want to read this to you and to the audience, and then we'll wrap up here on this probably. But 3 days ago on Facebook, I made a post and I said, morning routine. Don't worry about all the insane mofos telling you spring out of bed, read 20 pages, journal, run 5 miles, do gratitude, do affirmations, journal again, jump in cold plunge, shoot yourself in the head, run 5 more miles to be successful. For the love of God, I'm begging you, start here. And this is where I find what I find to be the absolute pinnacle, the most important things. Wake up and get out of bed relatively quickly, 2 minutes or less. Even if all you do at first is pace around your room for a few minutes to get moving. So, you've got these amazing people, Jocko Willink, love that guy. I love people where they're like, I spring out of bed. That's fine. That's cool. But starting out, a couple minutes, right? Couple minutes. Because guys are waking up and laying in bed for 30 minutes, an hour, all that. Yeah. So I'm like, get out of bed relatively quickly. Number two, no phone, computer, TV for at least the first 30 minutes of your day. So even what you said about wake up like your grandparents and all that, I'm fully on board with all that. I'm not, you don't got to wake up and read, Marcus Aurelius for 20 minutes and then this and that, whatever. But the biggest plague, and I'm sure that with the people you've worked with, entrepreneurs, maybe even back when you were doing more dating coaching, dude, everyone does it. I fall victim sometimes, and I notice my focus is shit the rest of the day. Everyone wakes up and immediately Instagram, text, Snap, dude. And there's so much science behind the brain waves that sort of anxiety that you were feeling in the morning. It's supposed to be there. That's cortisol. That's your mind literally being in its most problem-solving state, looking for threats, problem solving, figuring out the day, let's go. And you actually shut that down as soon as you get on the phone, and it's very detrimental. And then 3, for me, this is huge. Go on a good walk outdoors, no matter the climates. Bundle up if you need to. Don't wear sunglasses. Allow the sun to enter your eyes. Helps with waking you up and activating the circadian rhythm. Simple 1, 2, 3. It's like get up relatively quick. Don't get on your phone. Go for a walk, wait at least 30 minutes. And then from there, do whatever you want. But don't immediately go into that spectator brainwave mindset, because otherwise you will find yourself all day going to the gram, going to TikTok. So I think that's and that's basically what you're doing anyways. You're waking up and meditating. So it's pretty much right in check with all that.
Yeah, I don't check my phone in the morning either. I put it on airplane mode the night before, and so the alarm goes up. I turn off the alarm. It's in the bathroom, so I have to get up to turn it off. And then I'll brush my teeth. I'll go meditate. I'll go downstairs. I had some, black coffee, and that's pretty much it. Like, that's the start of my day.
That's another one of those, like, similar to the Vipassana retreat. That's another one of those self-development things where I've just never gone as far as to do it, and I know I should, which is still, even though I'm good with it, I'm good with the airplane mode and all that, but keeping the phone outside the room. Because I will say one of my things that I struggle with a bit is I should just always be going to bed at least like 30 minutes earlier, but instead I'm like getting in that last dopamine, that last bit of Instagram and Facebook and making sure I responded to this. And so putting that phone outside the room, I think would be beneficial for everybody. Bro, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. I think we'll wrap up here, man. I want to have you back on, bro. I feel like you dropped a lot of wisdom. I think the audience is gonna, I think the audience is really gonna get a lot of benefit. I mean, I got benefit, man. I'm telling you, I'm very interested now in the dark triad test. I think it's time I step up and find out just how narcissistic I really am, because I might score a little higher than I'd like, and then I might need to look into dropping that down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter what your score is as long as you're willing to work on yourself, because that's all that matters, right? Like, if you're willing to work on yourself, like, you can lower those scores. And high narcissism is not always a bad thing. Most CEOs are narcissistic. People who make a lot of money are narcissistic or psychopathic. So there's benefits to everything.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right, bro. Well, thank you so much for being on here. Guys, go follow Moe on Instagram. Again, that's Moe, Moe Abbassi, Abbassi. Follow him. And we'll have you on again soon, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on, brother.